Hey everyone, welcome to Church Tech Life. My name is Michael and this is Phil. This is a video for tech guys by tech guys. We're doing some really cool stuff today. But first I want to introduce you to my friend Phil. Hey Phil, what's going on?
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Christmas is coming quick. It's October and we're going to do a whole bunch of stuff for Christmas and I am not prepared at all.
Is anybody ever prepared for Christmas until November 31st?
Well, if I wait that long until I need to get ready for Christmas, I will be fired. And I'll be looking.
Is there really a November 31st? I think I made up that. I think there's a November 30th, but I don't think there's a 31st. I could be wrong. Fact check me. You can put it in the comments below.
Well, see, if I get fired because I wait until November 31st, I will be reaching out to you subscribers for a job. So keep me in mind come December 1st.
People will ask me when my birthday is, and I tell them February 30th, and they're like, I'll put that on the calendar. I'm like, please do so.
Please. and that's how you choose your friend base.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Let's start every episode with a Bible verse. Phil, hit us. What do we got?
All right. We're going to go to the obscure book of Zechariah. We're going to go to Zechariah chapter 3, verse 7. Thus says the Lord of hosts, if you will walk in my ways and keep my charge, then you shall rule my house and have charge of my courts, and I will give you the right to access among those who are standing here. God really wants us to keep his standards, and God really wants us to keep his ways. So I just want to pull something out. We've been in Psalms for a little while, so I just want to pull something way out of Zechariah, and I had to explain to Michael that was actually in the Bible.
That's right, and I don't think I could spell it, so I will go straight to Google to put the graphic up. All right, so this episode we're not going to be talking about whether you should enclose your drums or whether you shouldn't, or types of enclosures, only because next month we're going to be diving into that head first. We're going to be walking through the enclosure I have, how I have it set up, and how our drummer likes it, and then also Phil's enclosure as well. This video, this month, what we're going to be talking about is some of the issues you can run into when you have an enclosure. Like, for instance, a lot of you guys have already gone down the enclosure path. You have drum enclosures at your church, and those of you who have them know that there can be some issues with sounds that that you need to overcome. And I want to have Phil walk us through some of the things he's done, some problems he's fixed in the enclosure, and hopefully that'll help you guys out as well. All right, Phil, take it away. What do we got?
All right, so you know I'm a drummer, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to start this out with a joke. How do you know that your drum throne is level?
How? Drool
is running out both sides of the drummer's mouth. All right, so now that I've offended people, let's just go right into the video and start talking about what I did to try to mitigate some of the sound issues that I had, and some of the ways that we were able to go through and eliminate some of the echo and some of the just the noises of the drum booth. So let's just go ahead and cut right into the video.
All right, so we're going to start talking about our drum shield, but what we do for sound inside of our drum shield. So for us, what we have, and we're going to dive a lot deeper into what drum shields are and just different styles, but we've got this panel that's right over here, so that's helping absorb some, but then we've got this glass that wraps around the very front end of it. We've got some carpet down there on the front. We've got, or on the bottom at the top, we've got, oh, there I am, hi. We've got some carpet on the top, and then we've got a door over on this side, which is also adding some padding on there. And we've got just kind of a wall that's right back here that's padded. And again, the top, it's a little hard to see, but the top and then the bottom is carpeted. So when you walk in here, I don't know if you can hear all of the echoes in here or not, but this room just kind of is echoey. It's a little weird to kind of be in here just because sound is bouncing off that glass and just kind of coming back in this direction. So there's a few things that we have done to try to counteract that. And that's basically what we're talking about on this video. We have a Roland SPD-Pro. This is the new one that just came out. So we have triggers on our drums. Now, at first we started out by using the triggers on the drums just to control the gates at the soundboard. And we're about to dive into that really deeply. But right now we are actually triggering our toms, but we're also blending them with our microphones as well. And then we are triggering our kick drum. You can see the trigger right there. There's our trigger for our kick drum. So our kick drum, because it's kind of a small kick drum, we wasn't getting the boominess that I kind of wanted from it. So it just sounded a little bit weak, and I wanted something a little more stronger. So we decided to go ahead and trigger that kick drum, and that gives us consistency from week to week. And then it also just gave us a little bit of a deeper sound that we were looking for instead of kind of the higher pitched. We have a trigger on our snare drum. This trigger right here is only triggering the gate for that microphone. So it opens and closes that microphone. That's all that trigger does. We are not using a triggered sound for our snare drum. We're using the microphone for our snare drum. The tom, kind of the same thing. That trigger right there goes back to our SPD, and we have a hit. We have a sampled sound, actually a recorded sound of that tom, of the sound that we want, and then we also use that microphone to play at the same time. So that way we get a mixture of the attack and the sound that we want, but also get a little bit of the room and the tonality of that. But that trigger is what opens and closes the gate of that microphone, so that when I hit this cymbal, if I hit it hard, being that close to that microphone, if I didn't have it triggered, then that microphone would open up because the sound would be loud enough where the microphone thought that the gate, that the sound was getting generated from the tom. Because what the gate does is when the sound hits a certain threshold, it allows the mic to open up and basically kind of self unmutes. And then it allows the sound to come through, and then it slowly mutes the microphone again by a setting we put in. So, I'm going to show you that here in just a minute on our console. So we were not able to, so whenever we hit cymbals in here, we were getting these microphones to open up. The kick drum does it a lot as well. If you whenever you hit the kick drum, that microphone would open up a lot, but so would this microphone over here. So over here, we're doing the same thing with the hybrid model, where we're getting the recorded drum sound from the trigger from the SPD, but we also have the microphone, so we're blending both of those two together. And that way, this microphone only turns on, or is only ungated when I hit that drum. So whenever I hit this, that microphone does not turn on, because it reads from the trigger itself. The other thing that we did in here to control some sound is we changed out the microphones, our overheads. Now, you're going to see them pointed a little weird. So that microphone is pointed right at those cymbals, the hi-hat and the crash. And then this microphone over here is pointed over at these two. So what happens is these are shotgun microphones. So they have a very tight pattern. So instead of it picking up all of this information out here and all of this out here, it works kind of like right over there to only pick up in this area over here. So it helped with the reflection that was coming from the glass not to really get back into the microphone sound-wise. So these are very inexpensive microphones, very inexpensive, being $30, $40 or so. They were from Camcorders, and I literally bought them off of eBay. This one is a Panasonic, and I believe that one over there is either a Canon or a Sony.
All right, cool. Wow, Phil, you weren't kidding at all. That room is noisy. That high end just... As soon as you're talking or hit anything, that noise is really bad in there, man. So I see why you have to have all that stuff in there just to control the sound a little bit.
Yeah, and so there's a couple of things that I do want to kind of point out right from the beginning. And it's the same stuff we always point out. But number one, we're not sponsored by anybody. So all of the product stuff that we do is because this is what we used. We picked it after research. Nobody came to us and said, hey, here's $1 million, please promote our stuff. So we haven't gotten, we paid for everything. It's all the church's property. And we are not being paid to support or to do anything. Secondly, the thing that I kind of want to talk about is this subject's going to be a little bit deeper than some of the other stuff that we dive into. And we do understand that. This is going to be confusing to some people, and that's okay. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. Don't hesitate to get us in the comments and ask questions and just kind of engage with us, because we'd really like to engage with you. I have been around at a lot of churches, and one of the things that I have seen, noticed, talked about is I'm not alone with some of the issues that I had. In fact, the way that I came up with this, there's tons of videos online and there's people that talk about it, but I hadn't seen any of those videos whenever I started it. I was actually doing a show for a country artist, and they had those plexiglass shields, the round ones that were right in front of the cymbals.
Baffles?
Yeah. Yeah. And they just had those right in front of the cymbals. So there really wasn't stopping anything coming from the toms or any of that type of stuff, but they were just kind of helping the cymbals not bleed over into the microphones from the lead singer and all of that type of stuff. So one of the things that they noticed was where those were placed at, they were getting a lot of reflection off of those down into their tom mics. And as I was talking with their drum tech, he made the comment that they could trigger it. So I was like, that's interesting. So we started talking our way through it, and they came back with some triggers. They ran down to a local guitar center or something. They came back with some triggers, and that night at the show, they triggered it, and they loved the sound. I went on, did a couple more shows with them, and they said that they were going to add this to their drum set from that point forward. So this was a national touring act that is solving their issues that way. So I kind of filed that away. I get over here to the church. We're having all kinds of issues. I just get noise inside of there. I never really could lock in a very tight drum sound because it was just too swooshy. And I don't know how to explain that in any other word than just that. Cymbals were not punchy. When you hit the cymbal, you would get the attack, but then there was just all this weird noise and stuff that was just kind of there. Hitting the toms, you would have kind of the attack from the tom, but then there was all this kind of weird noise that was in there. So we were looking for a way to solve those problems. I decided whenever we did this that we were not going to sample the drums. We were just going to use them as noise gates, the triggers as noise gates. So we bought triggers specifically for that reason. So those D-drum triggers were very, very intentional on what we bought. There's a ton of triggers out there. I did a lot of research. There's only two that I kind of recommend mostly, and those are the Roland triggers, and those are the D-drum triggers. The interesting thing on the D-drum triggers are they have an XLR attachment or an XLR connection right underneath the trigger. So you don't have to do a conversion if you want to run it directly to your soundboard. You just plug XLR directly in, run that into your snake, and then run that directly back to your soundboard. The Roland triggers were a 1/4 inch TRS, tip ring sleeve, coming out of it. So I was going to have to do an XLR on the other side of that, which is fine. You can just buy the cable, but we had tons of XLR laying around. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and get the D-drum triggers, and that's kind of what made us settle on the D-drum triggers. A little while later on, we started talking about it, and we were like, we're not getting some consistency from our drummers. We would have one drummer that plays really hard. Unfortunately, that's most of the time me. And then we would have another drummer that would play really soft. So we were constantly doing a lot of changing and a lot of varying and all of that. So we decided that some of the drummers, we wasn't getting the attack we were looking for out of those toms. So we decided that we were going to move the triggers, as opposed to running them directly to the soundboard. We decided to run them into the SPD and then make some triggered sounds. So now what we have is a blend between, on the toms, of the triggered sound, which is just the attack, and then the tonality of that tom, and then the same thing on the floor tom. The kick drum we decided to trigger just because we never could really get a deep enough tone out of that kick drum. I think it's like a 16 by 20. So it just really didn't have kind of the low end sound I was looking for. I wanted to get a little bit more of a bassy or beefier punch on that bottom side. So I dialed in a 24-inch by 22 or something like that. I mean, it was really massive. So I dialed in one of them to be the secondary. You can put 2 sounds in on it. And then the top one, I think, is a Texas country hit. So it had a whole lot of attack to it, but not a lot of boom. And then I have a lot of boom on the other side of that. So we double hit that, and I got the sound I was looking for, so I was pretty happy with it. The snare drum, we still do not trigger that for tone or for sound. We just use the snare drum for the gate. The trigger on the snare drum just for the gate of the 2 microphones, the top mic and the bottom mic. And the reason is, a lot of times I'm looking just to get those ghost notes off that snare drum and just kind of get the diddle bounces and that type of stuff. I could set that up for me where I'm hitting pretty hard a lot, and I could get the gate to work correctly, and I could get the sounds I was looking for out of the SPD. But the moment somebody came in that wasn't hitting as hard as I was, then all of a sudden I was getting what they call a machine gun effect, which is just like, brrr, or they would get these off tempos or just misfires and stuff. So we really didn't want to go that direction. I didn't want to go that direction at all. So we just keep the snare trigger just for triggering the gate, not any sounds.
Okay, so this sounds like the ultimate fix that so the debate that people have regarding drums in worship on the stage, in a live environment, is whether to go an electronic set, which is all sampled sounds, and you hit a pad that looks like a drum and you hit it and it plays a drum sound, right? Or have an acoustic kit inside an enclosure with microphones. If you put the triggers that play a sampled sound on your acoustic set, you get the feel and the look of an acoustic set. Your drummer is happy because he's hitting a real drum, he's not hitting a sample pad. But then also your sound engineer gets the sounds he wants that an electric kit can provide. So it's almost the best of both worlds. Would you say that?
Kind of. So there's a lot of opinions. You ask one drummer this, you're going to get 40 answers.
Yeah.
If you put 2 drummers in a room, you'll get a million answers. The problem is not a lot of people like sampled sounds, period. You'll get that from audience as well. As soon as people realize that you're triggering it, they're like, I never did like sampled sounds on that. The problem with that is that means you don't like 90% of any of the pop music or any of the Christian praise and worship that's out there right now, because almost everybody is sampling sounds at some level. So, and the sounds have come so far with Steven Slate and a few of the other companies that are out there. They have come so far so quickly that they really sound like real drums. So, it's people. One of the things that I see a lot of times, especially with electronic drum sets, is people will buy it and then they want to just basically put it together and have it sound exactly the way how they want it to sound right out of the box. But that doesn't work with any other instrument. If you're a keyboard player, you're going to pull it out, you're going to play with your sounds, you're going to dial it in, you're going to make it sound right. If you're a guitarist, you're going to change strings and put on the strings you want and get all kinds of acoustic pedals or electric pedals and do all this stuff to set up your guitar, the intonation and your string height, and get everything perfect for your playing ability. But whenever it comes to drums, we don't take the time to sit down to do that. And there's a lot of reasons for that, pro and cons and all that type of stuff. But I just don't think that we've given electric a fair shake in most of our church environments. And there's this prejudice against it right from the beginning. So you asked me one question. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent with that a little bit. But that's kind of... you do have to bring your drummers involved with this as you talk your way through it. There's a couple of things that I'm doing my drummers don't like. Eventually, maybe I can fix that. I've got a couple of things that I'm going to do to try to fix that. Maybe we dive into a different video when we start talking about that, because every church is different and every drummer is different. But bring your drummers in, have a conversation and say, this is my problem, this is what I want to do, and this is how I want to solve it, and then start working your way forward with it. And don't hesitate to reach out to us in the comment section below whenever you hit subscribe and all that type of stuff. Don't hesitate to reach out to us and bring us in on that conversation. We'd love to help you.
Mm-hmm. No, we would love that. Be sure to ask your questions because this can be a scary topic, especially once you start getting into setting up the gating and setting up your triggers so they sound correct, just because it's really easy to mess this up, because it's not straightforward and easy. Speaking of that, let's get into your next part of the video, Phil, where you set up the soundboard and setting up the triggers.
Perfect. Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so right now we're at the CL5. This is our Yamaha CL5. This is the one that's inside of our worship center. So I want to start right here with our snare drum. So we've got a snare top, a snare bottom, and then a snare trigger. So top, bottom, trigger. And what you'll see is our trigger line is off. So we do not run that back in the house. We just use this as the reference point. So when this sees a signal, if I had virtual sound check, you would see that these lights would still be moving and you would still have signal coming in, but the gate is keeping them shut because the gate isn't listening to what the microphone brings in. The gate is listening for the trigger itself. So when the trigger gets signal and it goes bam, then the microphone opens up and whatever's coming through here is heard, and then it just spends a little bit of time and turns itself down. So let's take a look at how I set that up. So I'm going to go here to the snare top and we're going to select that channel and we're going to come over to the gate and take a look at it. So what happens is we tell it whenever you key, we want you to key in on channel 5. So don't listen to the channel that you're on. Don't listen to the self. Listen to channel 5. And whatever comes through channel 5, whenever you get a signal there, then we want you to open and close. So that allows our threshold to be pretty low, our attack, all that stuff stays low, our hold is just a millisecond or so. Usually we set these up on Wednesday nights whenever we have rehearsal. So this is kind of our starting settings, and then we'll usually dial this in a little bit so that comes back down, but we'll start listening to it and we'll see where it has a good strong bam, just snare hit, and then comes back down. So we're going to be listening for that snare hit to hit and then get out of the way, and then that microphone's going to decay down, so it's going to slowly drop this gate and it'll slowly close the mic off. So that's how we do our snare drum. Our toms are done the same way. So we've got a tom 1 and a tom 2, tom 1 trigger, a tom 2 and a tom 2 trigger. So let's take a look at our tom. So we're telling it, do not listen to channel 9, which this would be channel 9. Do not listen to the microphone on channel 9, but we want you to listen to the microphone on channel 10, which our channel 10 is our tom 1 trigger. So this right here is keying for that. So that microphone opens and closes only whenever a sound is produced from this trigger. So if you haven't done a whole lot with gates, then this might be a little bit of a foreign concept. I'd love to talk with you about it a little bit more. Don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions. Now, speaking a little technically, one of the bad things that Yamaha does on this console is whenever I do this, I can only work the triggers in groups of 8. So if I had my tom over here on channel 8 and my trigger was on 9, then I wouldn't be able to set this up because it has to work in groups of 8.
Well, that's really cool. I'd never, thought about triggering it that way. Did you just figure that out from experience, or what? Did you hear that out from another guy? How'd you find that out?
So yeah, a couple of ways to figure it out. Number one, I like I said earlier, I was on the road with a country band, and they decided that they wanted to try to deal with some sound reflection off cymbals, and that was the direction that they came up with to solve that. So kind of filing that away, whenever I got to where I'm at now and I started having that issue, I was like, man, how did he do that? So honestly, I got on YouTube, YouTube certification on a lot of things. I got on YouTube and I started looking, and I came across MXU, and Andrew Stone was talking about how he used triggers with his church and how they set it up and all of that. I believe it was Andrew. So I'll try to link that video down below. Just please realize it's not our video, so We don't control it, so if they take it down for whatever reason, then it's taken down. But we'll link it below. That way you can have the same information that I had to help you out with it. But basically the way they set it up is the same way that we set it up over at our church. And it really was pretty stupid easy once you got everything done. The problem is just working your way through the mindset of what happens and how. So it's one of these things where it's kind of an advanced level feature that's really easy to do. You just have to get all the settings right.
What's really neat too is the triggers look like they're really easy to set up too. There's not any crazy mathematics you have to do to get them to work. They look like they just clip on and then you just run it straight for the soundboard.
Especially how we originally did it. It literally was clip it right on the drum. Didn't matter where it went on the drum as long as you're not going to have a drummer hitting it on a regular basis. So keep it out of the way of the drummer. Clip it right onto the drum. XLR, run the XLR directly to the snake. Snake goes all the way to front of house. Patch it into a channel. Once it's patched into a channel, have somebody hit that and you're going to see that fire off. Now you will hear a sound from it. It's a small piezo pickup in there. So you will hear a sound from it. It doesn't sound good. I mean, it really, the trigger itself, it was never designed to sound good. So, but it's everything that you need for it. So picks that up, get it right into your system, and then start setting up your gate from the signal that comes from it. And watch how precise it is. And you'll be amazed at how stupid easy it is.
Mm-hmm. What's cool is most modern consoles, ranging from the X32 all the way to stuff from SSL, can run this kind of gating from external sources. So even, you talked about the Yamaha, and now we're going to go into the Behringer. Is it an X32? Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so an X32. Most people have that. And so you can easily set it up right where you're at your church.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to go take a look at the X32, and that's why we wanted to show it in this video, because I know a lot of churches have it. And this might be a feature that you can use.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Let's check it out.
So we're down in our youth room, and this is our Behringer X32. So I went ahead and selected our bass drum line. Now we do not have triggers in our youth room. We only have them in our worship center. But I wanted to show you, if you did want to key it, this is what you would do. So you would come in and you would go to your gate tab, and then right over here it says key. So self key, channel 1 through whatever. So whatever channel you would put that gate or the trigger on, that's what you would go to, and then just select it, and then it would start keying off of that channel. You can do it on a Behringer X32, so I'm assuming you can do it on the M32. I'm pretty sure that you can do it on the Allen and Heath as well. You're just looking for your keys, your side chains. Sometimes they call them side chains. So you're looking for verbiage like that. If you got questions about it, put it down in the comments. I'd love to answer those for you. But you can do it on an X32.
Well, see, I told you, most modern consoles can handle this kind of thing. So if that sounds like something you want to do, then don't be afraid of checking it out. The only rub you have to run into is that if you're limited on the amount of channels you've got on your board, like for instance, if you're using all 48 channels like I am, I don't have any room for any triggers. And so that's something that I would have to either buy another soundboard or sacrifice or move some stuff around. So I have triggers set up within my setup.
Yeah, for us, I mean, our drum channels went from like 8 channels to 16 as soon as we put the SPD in as well. So we, because every one of those is doubled up. So I've got 2 microphones on the snare, a top and a bottom, but now I added a trigger. So I've got 3 basic microphones on a snare drum. I got 2 microphones on each one of my toms, so that's 4 microphones on toms. And then we did have 2 kick drum mics, one on the outside, one on the inside, but we knocked that down to just 1 trigger at that point from there. So maybe we freed up a little bit of space. So that's my story.
Yeah, well, especially if you're like in your kick drum, for instance, you're replacing the microphone with a sampled sound, right, from your SPD. Honestly, I think that's the way to go. Next month, we're going to talk about my adventure with a new drum enclosure, new drums, and all the tech that went into that. And it was a monster just to get my head around, because it was the first time I'd ever done that before. And all the crazy stuff that we had to overcome. Now looking back, especially with things like toms or the kick, having sampled sounds, I think, would be just outstanding. No matter how good your drummer is, how good your toms are, or how good your microphones are, sometimes sampling is just the way to go.
And let me add this in. We went from Beta 98s, the little condenser tom mics. That was another thing. So I went to those E604s from Sennheiser and dropped off. Now, there's nothing wrong with those Shure microphones. They're actually really good microphones. I'd love to own a set personally, but they were not the correct application for what we were trying to do, because now I've got a condenser mic on top of that, and then I've got it opening and closing with the trigger. It just created the same sound anyway. So moving to a dynamic mic. So you don't forget, microphone placement is extremely important, not only for your toms, but also for your cymbals.
Literally for everything. And that's a really good segue too, because we didn't talk about your overheads. So the the two microphones that are right over your drum kit, picking up your entire kit, but most importantly, your ride cymbal and your crashes and splashes. So let's talk about that real quick, and why you chose shotgun mics, which is really unconventional. I'd never heard of that before. Choosing shotgun mics instead of something like a large diaphragm condenser or even a small diaphragm condenser overhead. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so we were running some, I guess AKG, I don't remember the model number of them, but they were AKG cardioid mics in there. And they were just picking up so much sound of that room and just every little thing. And we could get really a lot of clarity because of those microphones. When you play on the ride, I like to get that ping ping sound almost, whenever you have like a nylon tip on it. We wasn't getting nylon tip hits. We really wasn't getting a whole lot from our cymbals. So we had plenty of snare, plenty of drums, but no, you would get a crash cymbal, but no real rhythm, no hi-hat. Even though we had a 57 right there on the hi-hat, turning that up was just kind of a mess because you got all those sounds of the room. And then those overheads, oh my goodness, they were just killing me. So I was looking for something to change out. So we actually had some Audio-Technica AT4040s, and I put one of those inside of that room just to give it a shot. And I didn't like that. We quickly changed that out. There were a couple of other mics that I put inside of there. Super cardioid, hyper cardioid. I just went through the list of trying to find stuff. And I had some of these just really cheap shotgun microphones that came off of some camcorders. I bought them off of eBay. I think I spent like $30 a piece on them. And I said, well, we'll give it a shot. They can't be any worse than what we've got. So I put them in there, and all of a sudden our cymbals came to life. They were real punchy. They sounded really good. I might one day upgrade those microphones and get something in there that has a little bit more quality, but I'm kind of happy with the way how they sound. So, you don't always have to throw money at a problem. Sometimes you can find stuff that really doesn't cost a whole lot, but it's the correct tool for the job, so it's going to give you what you're looking for. So those shotgun mics, they kind of laser focus right in on a specific area, and the further away you get, the wider they get. But as long as I'm staying in pretty close to them, they just kind of hold right there on that. They don't pick up a whole lot of the drum enclosure. They don't pick up a whole lot of the glass. They don't pick up a whole lot of toms or any of that stuff. They really just pick up the cymbals, and I'm really happy with them.
That's a good lesson in thinking outside the box, because I have never seen shotgun mics used as overheads ever. My experience is I have two shotgun mics right here picking up my voice. When I worked in the film industry, you would film with shotgun mics picking up a specific area. That was kind of the box I had put shotgun mics in, because that's what they're made for, right? And so it's a good lesson that Phil's teaching us. Think outside the box. Think, okay, I need to accomplish this, and what's out there that can do that. So good on you, Phil. Good job.
So you can admit to it. Whenever I told you I was using shotguns in my drum enclosure, did you think I was crazy?
Yeah, I did. and I was, because typically you want to pick up the entire kit with your overheads, not just your cymbals, but everything in it, and then blend that into your sounds. Well, in Phil's case, he had a really poor drum enclosure that was adding problems. It was adding noise to the entire thing. And so he had a unique situation that may not be so unique. You may suffer that from right now, saying, I got to pinpoint a specific source. And so in Phil's case, it totally made sense. And so, where in my case, I would have thought he was crazy just because that's not what they're typically used for.
And there's some other ways to deal with it. You can put you can get the mic clips that clamp onto stands and put like a 57 on it and mic from underneath the cymbals. Those sometimes work out real nicely. I didn't have a whole lot of luck whenever I tried that, but we were already running a whole bunch of channels. I really didn't want to add in another 3 channels just for cymbals. So it would have been adding another channel because we got a left-right overhead. So we would have removed those and put mics up underneath to catch it. But then we would have had to mix them separately and blah, 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 blah. So it was a really good solution. It was really easy, and I've really enjoyed it.
All right, and then your drummers seem to be okay with the setup too, which is really important. You got to talk to your drummers before you make any changes or while you're making them. That way they're on board because they're the ones that actually have to deal with it at the end of the day.
And honestly, they have knowledge. A lot of drummers have a lot of knowledge out there, and they can talk with you and help you through some stuff. Talk to them about what sounds they're looking for, what they're trying to get out of it. I'm a drummer. I enjoy playing, and I like what they call sound reinforcement when it comes from my drum set, not sound manipulation. I don't want you to take my drum sound and change it. I want you to reproduce what comes off of my snare drum because I've picked that snare drum for a specific reason for a specific song. And honestly, on some gigs, whenever I play out, I'll carry 2 or 3 snare drums with me and change them in the middle of songs so that I can get the sound I'm looking for. So sometimes you get people that are like me that just are looking for specific sounds on specific things, and sometimes you don't. But talk with your drummers because they've taken the time to develop their ear. They've taken their time to learn their craft. So talk to people that have learned their craft. I say whenever you kind of come at something and you do it all by yourself, you can only rise to the level of your own ignorance. But whenever you come in with other people and you brainstorm with other people that are also intelligent, then you can rise higher than your own intelligence. And you can come up with a solution that sometimes you didn't think about, but is a better solution.
I love it. All right, next month we're talking about drum enclosures in depth. We're going to give a tour of my enclosure and Phil's enclosure and then how we have that set up. It's going to be really cool, but for now, we're all done. So I'm Michael and this is Phil. I am so glad you joined us today. Be sure to like and subscribe to this video. It's completely free and it really helps out the channel. We're about 9 videos in and it's just been a blast helping you guys out and hearing from you guys as well. So be sure to leave some comments in the comment section and leave a like. All right, guys, I appreciate you. We'll see you next month. Thank you so much.
Have a good one. Thank you.